how demanding is the PI job? At first thought, you may think this is easy to answer. In all reality, the true answer is, well, it all depends, folks. It depends on a lot of factors, to be sure. The first big thing to consider is what type of investigations are you working? For instance, if you do surveillance, and a lot of you out there are surveillance investigators, then the high demand part really kicks in during the busy times of the year. The old saying is true, when it rains, it pours, and I am here to tell you, when I get busy, man, I get busy, and when I slow down, man, I really slow down. The surveillance world has a lot of ebbs and flows, ups and downs, and cyclical times every year, year in and year out. And while it seems to be somewhat of a pattern, that pattern can change in a heartbeat. When I was doing only surveillance, it seemed like I was out there frying my brain in that old tin can that I call a surveillance vehicle 6 or 7 days a week for months on end. Then suddenly, nothing, nada, crickets. Those months of nonstop work were extremely demanding, to be sure. I had to write reports in my car, edit video in my car, send reports and updates to clients in the late hours of the night or sometimes in the wee hours of the morning. And the physical demands, oh man, you can't imagine it unless you have lived through it. Sitting, bent in the same position all day, every day, not being able to eat properly, unable to just leave when you get hungry, thirsty, tired, or need a restroom break. And then when you are done for the day, you have the long drive home. It can really be tough, to be sure. And to make it even worse, it is really hard to turn down work when it comes your way, because you always know in the back of your mind the slowdown is just around the corner. And turning down work means the customer gives that work to another PI who may be hungrier than you and able to take on more cases, and then the demands of worry set in. Will I lose the client? Will they call me back? Are they going to cut my caseload? And that slowdown brings about its own set of demands on you. Now, you must hunt for work, chase the clients, try to get any and all cases you can just to survive. Now, hopefully you have saved up your money during the crazy times. Hopefully you have some emergency contingency monies, and hopefully you have budgeted for the future. But what if you are just getting started? What if you didn't have the opportunity to budget? What then? Well, the pressures continue to mount and the mental demands build up, and you pressure yourself more and more and more and continually question your decisions. But then the phone rings, the emails start coming in, trickling in a little bit at a time. You feel some relief, you get a case, then you get 2 more, and now 4 more cases. Then suddenly you're back out there 6 or 7 days a week, slaving away for what seems like an eternity. And the cycle just continues to go round and round, year in and year out. And what's the PI to do but suffer through it all? Well, do you still want to be a PI after hearing all of that? I will say one thing, folks. Being a private investigator can be very demanding at times, but the demands of the job can be managed if you have the right tools and if you just take it one day at a time. And remember, you are the one in charge. Sure, the client, the customer, the guy or the gal writing the checks are, in essence, the boss, but you are the one managing everything. Make sure you manage your caseload with proper scheduling and make sure your schedule has downtime in it. Think of it like this. If you work in a factory setting or in retail even, or any other job for that matter, there are probably some very trying, some very demanding times of the year. If you work in retail, well, the busy season starts around Black Friday. If you work in construction, spring and summer are going to prove to be challenging times. And you do the work, you get the hours, you grab what you can when you can, and you keep in mind there will be slower times coming soon. Being a PI is a lot like that, but it is not always feast or famine. It just feels that way when you're at the top of the cycle or at the bottom. In fact, for the most part, once you get in a routine, it is just like everything else. You get up, you go to work, you get the job done, you go home, you rest a bit, go to bed, then you start it all over again. Now let's look at some other types of investigations. Let's say criminal defense investigations. Those have ebbs and flows that are generally cyclical and closely tied to the calendar too. Trials and court hearings, for instance, tend to slow down around the holidays. Why is that? Well, judges and attorneys are people too, and they have families, friends, and places to go during these times of the year. And in the heat of summer, things get more active with criminal cases. It is just kind of natural. Things just heat up in the summer. And it is a lot like surveillance work. When it rains, it pours, and when it pours, you feel like you're always underwater, always treading just to keep your head above the waves and hoping for a chance to take a breath. Then it slows down, the caseload starts to dwindle, the hearing dates start to disappear, and you see a rainbow on the horizon, and you start to relax. Then suddenly nothing, not a zilch, no cases, the phone isn't ringing, you are struggling to get any work whatsoever, you are calling and emailing everyone you know. So you wait a bit, maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks, with a few smaller jobs trickling in here and there. Then suddenly, boom, you have 2, 4, 6 cases, they are piling up. You need to go do interviews in this part of town, and you need to have an interview with a defendant in prison in that town. And the attorney wants you to do a scene investigation ASAP before any evidence disappears, and you can hardly handle the demands of the job. And that, folks, is the big secret, the big lesson you need to learn. Being a PI is, well, it's a job. Now, I know, I always say it's not really a job to me. I love being a private investigator so much, I never get up thinking, gosh, I wish I didn't have to go to work at that place again. But that is how it is with any job. If you love it, you love it. If you hate it, you hate it. I just don't let the demands get to me. I do what I can with the resources I have, and my time is my most valuable resource, so I treat it as such. Yes, it is demanding at times, and you know what else? It is very rewarding at times too, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, folks. Now, I always say knowledge is the key to helping with the stresses of work and life, and I know a lot of you do surveillance, so I made this video about the secrets of front seat surveillance to help answer and debunk some of the myths that surround that topic.